Evening, students. So we are studying the life processes chapter. Already we have studied the important life processes. They are nutrition, respiration, and transportation. Already we have studied. So in the transportation process, so the how the transportation takes place in the human beings. So what is the function of the heart? So that all we studied in the last class. So today we start with the next topic, that is transportation in plants. Transportation, so that is the transferring of the materials from the one place to the another place of the organism's body, right? But how it takes place in the plants? Already we have studied how it takes place in the animals like human beings. So human beings, they have the heart, so that pumps the blood to the different parts of our body. So that blood carries the different nutrients, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and some dissolved form of the nutrients inside it. So that is able to transport the materials from one part to the another part of our body. But what about the plants? So here the plants, they exchange the carbon dioxide and the oxygen with the environment, but it takes place through the stomata. The exchange of the gases, carbon dioxide and the oxygen, that takes place with the help of the stomata that is present in the surface of the leaves. But it also needs some water, mineral nutrition for the photosynthesis process. So here for plants, soil is the nearest and the richest source of material. So what it contains? Soil contains the nitrogen, phosphorus and other minerals, and very essential, water is also present in the soil. But how this water and other minerals, so they are transported into the plant's body, and how it is transported to the leaves? Because these all nutrients, they should transfer to the leaves, because in the leaves there is a process takes place that is called as a photosynthesis. So this photosynthesis needs this water, minerals and nutrients, right? So how it takes place in the plants, so that we are studying in this part. Plants, they are not moving, so they are stable, you know that. But they need less energy compared to the animals. So animals need more energy, they are moving, but plants need less energy compared to the animals. So there is no specialized, well organized system, but some tissues are developed in plants, so that helps for the transportation. So here you can observe the roots, so which are contacted with the soil. So this soil which contain the nutrients and the minerals, so that is absorbed by the roots and transported to the leaves where the photosynthesis takes place. So there is a two case. In the first case, if the distance between the soil contacting organs, that is root, and the chlorophyll containing organs are small, means here if the distance between the root and the leaves, soil contacting organ means that is root, and the chlorophyll containing organ means that is a leaf. So if the distance between the root and the leaf is very small, means so that is very small plant, so then the transport of the water and minerals takes place by the diffusion process. So what do you mean by diffusion process? So diffusion means movement of the molecules from its higher concentration to the lower concentration, from higher concentration to the lower concentration, so the molecules are able to move, that is called as a diffusion. So this diffusion process takes place when the distance between the root and the leaf is very small. But if you observe the tall plants, so if you observe the tall 20-30 meter height of plants, we can observe so how the transport of the nutrients and the water transport takes place in that plant. So in that plant, so there is a specialized structures. So they are called as xylem and phloem. So they helps for the transportation of the water and the other particles. So here xylem is the specialized tissue. So that is meant for the conduction of the water, and the phloem that is meant for the conduction of the food which is produced in the photosynthesis, that is produced by the photosynthesis process in the leaves, that should be transported to the different parts of the plant's body. So these two systems, xylem and phloem systems, they are helping for the transportation in plant's body. So in human, what we studied? So we studied about the blood and the human heart, right? But here, xylem and phloem, they are the specialized tissues. They helps for the transportation in plant's body. So here, how the transportation of water takes place in plants. First, we are studying about the how water transported from the root to the leaves, right? So xylem tissue, so tissues means that contain the different cells. So xylem tissues, it contains the vessels and tracheids. So here in this picture you can observe the xylem, these are the xylem vessels and these are the xylem tracheids. So these xylem vessels and tracheids, they together form the xylem tissue. So here you can observe the tube like structure, right? So this is nothing but a xylem. Totally it is called as a xylem tissue. So this xylem tissue, so that is also present in the root, that is also present in the stem region of the plant, and that is also present in the leaves. So together it forms the conducting channel from root to the shoots of the plant. So like this is the xylem which is present inside the root, stem and the leaves. So it forms the conducting channel for the, so you can also call it as a tube like structure. So that is formed by the xylem vessels and tracheids. So inside this xylem vessel and tracheids, the movement of water takes place from root to the shoots of the plant to the leaves of the plants. Okay. So here, first thing what we should know. So these xylem vessels and tracheids, they are able to move the water. They will form the conducting channels inside the plant's body and they help for the transportation. Means they are forming the tube-like or pipe-like structure inside the root, stem and leaves continuously and helps for the transportation of the water and minerals from the root to the shoot. But the thing is, the soil which contain the water and the essential nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus ions, everything it contains, right? But how the movement of the water and these ions into the root takes place, so that we have to study. So the point what we are studying, how the movement of the water and ions takes place inside the root of the plant. So that is the important thing. So first point is, at the roots, cells contact with the soil actively take up ions. So the cells of the root, they have the contact with the soil. So in the soil, so there are more ions are present, different ions are present. So that ions that are moving inside the root cells. So the root cells take up the soil ions. Then when they take up the ions, so there is a difference between the concentration of the ions in between the soil and the root takes place. So here just observe it, when the root, so this is the root, when it take up the ions which is present in the soil, so this is the soil. So there is a concentration difference, ion concentration difference occurs in between the soil and the root cells. So in this situation, what happens? To remove this concentration difference. So inside the root and outside the root, there is a concentration difference because of the ions they moved inside the root. So here the water which is present in the outside the root, so that is able to move inside the root. So what happened here? To remove the concentration difference inside the root, the water enters into the root cells. So this is how water and ions they enter into the root. When the water enter into the root, so there is a xylem inside the root cells. So the water enter into the xylem, then it push upwards. The water pushed upwards towards the leaves. So like this, the water enters into the root, then it is pushed towards the leaves. So this is how the absorption of water and conduction of water takes place in the plant's body. So here first thing is xylem vessels, tracheids. So they form the conducting channel from root to the shoot. So they are forming the conducting channel like this. So next step is how the water and ions they enter into the root system. So here inside the soil, there is a high concentration of the ions. They enter into the root. The first thing is the ions, they enter into the root cells and they create the concentration difference because so they are present in the soil, moved inside the root. So there is a concentration difference because inside the root, there is more concentration of ions. To remove this concentration balance, so here water enters into the cells of the root and it enters to the xylem and pushed towards the leaves of the plant. So this is how transportation takes place in the plant's body. You can observe the structure, how the water is moving from root to the leaves. So here in the red color, so that represent the xylem which is carrying the water from root to the leaves. So here water is entered into the roots, then it is carried by the xylem vessels and tracheids, then it moves to the leaves. So here inside the stem or root, so there are the cells, so that is nothing but a xylem vessels and xylem tracheids. So they are able to move the water, they are able to push the water towards the plant leaves. Okay, so this diagram represents the how the conduction of water takes place inside the plant body. Okay, I hope this point is clear. So let's move to the next part of this chapter. So that is the one thing I explained, that is how the conduction of water, so that takes place in the plant body. So plants use one more strategy for the absorption of water and transport of the water inside the plant's body. So what is that strategy? So one already I explained. What is that? That is the absorption of the nutrients due to the concentration gradient. So when it increases the concentration, water enters into it and it is pushed towards the leaves. So one more strategy is that is transpiration. So what is the meaning of the transpiration? That is the loss of water through the stomata in the form of vapor is called as a transpiration. So already you have studied about the transpiration. Transpiration means loss of water through the aerial parts. Aerial parts means that is nothing but a leaves. So the leaves, they lost the water in the form of vapor. So when they lost the water, when the plants has an adequate supply of water, adequate supply of water means, so there is a more water quantity is present in the environment, then the transpiration process takes place. So if the in this environment, if the water scarcity is there, then this process will not take place. Transpiration process will be very less. But when it is having the adequate supply of water, the water that is lost to the stomata, and this lost water, so water is lost to the stomata. So again, it is replaced by the xylem vessels. So here, the transpiration that helps for the absorption of the water from the soil to the root. So here, this creates one force, suction force inside the plant's body. The loss of water, that is the transpiration, that creates the suction pressure inside the body of the plant. So that helps the plants to absorb the water from the soil. Okay. So this is how the water transportation takes place due to the transpiration pull. So here, the absorption of the water takes place by the roots of the plant, and the water, excessive water, that is lost through the stomata, and it creates one pressure. So it creates one suction pressure, means the plants are able to suck the water from the soil. So this is created by the transpiration process, and this transpiration process that helps for the movement of the water molecules inside the xylem vessels, and it lost to the leaf surface. So this is also called as a transpiration pull. So here, transpiration also helps in the absorption and upward movement of the water and minerals dissolved in it. So this transpiration, that is the loss of water, that creates the suction force. Suction means the plants, so that are able to absorbing the sucking the water and minerals from the soil. So that is created by the transpiration. So this absorption and upward movement of the water molecules and minerals dissolved in it from roots to the leaves. And this transpiration that also helps for the regulation of the temperature. The temperature is also regulated by the transpiration process. And very important, the effect of root pressure in transport of water is more important at night. So just concentrate on this point. During the daytime, stomata are open, because during the daytime there is a photosynthesis process takes place. So stomata are open because they need the oxygen for the photosynthesis process. So stomata are open. So stomata are open means the transpiration process takes place. So if the transpiration process taking place inside the plant's body means, so there is a creation of the transpiration pull, means it is absorbing the water from the soil and it is moving in the xylem. So during the daytime, the water absorption, water movement takes place due to the transpiration pull, which is created by the transpiration. And during the night time, the root pressure helps for the transport of the water. So during the night time, stomata are closed. When the stomata are closed, there is no transpiration process. So there is no transpiration process means there is no transpiration pull. There is no absorbing force, right? So here, during the night time, this root pressure, what I explained first one, so that helps for the absorption of the water. So this is how the conduction of the water takes place in the plant's body. So I hope you have observed the tallest plants like 30 to 50 meters height plants. So in that plants also, so the absorption of the water takes place by the root. So how they conduct the water and minerals from the roots to the shoot? So they are very height, about 32 meter, 50-meter height, right? But how it takes place? It is because of the only two process. The first process is the the pressure gradient that helps for the absorption of the water, and second one is the transpiration pull. So these both process, so they helps for the absorption of the water in the xylem and movement of the water in the xylem. So it is very important. So in your board exam, they ask the question like this: explain the conduction of water in the xylem. So like this, both methods you have to explain. So this video also show how the transpiration pull takes place. The movement of the water takes place in the vessel, xylem vessel. So already we studied about the how transportation takes place, water transportation takes place in the plant's body. I hope that point is clear. But one more thing is the transportation of the food and other materials. So food transportation that takes place by the specialized tissue that is called as a phloem. So water conduction takes place from the soil to the, from the roots to the leaves, because in the leaves there is a photosynthesis process. But in the photosynthesis process, so there is a production of the food material. So that should be transported into the different parts of the plant's body. So that should be stored in the different parts of the plant's body. So this phloem that helps for the transportation of the this food material to the different parts of the plant body. So some growing parts also need the food materials. So they need the energy growing tips, and some fruits and seeds and roots, they store the food. So that should be transported from the leaves of the plants, because leaves are able to produce the food material. So that should be transported. So that is done by the specialized tissue that is called as a phloem. So here you can observe the how the food is stored in different plants. So you can observe the carrot, beetroot, and some onion. So these all plants, they store the food material in this part. And some plants, they store the food material in stems, and some plants they store in leaves, fruits, and seeds. So these all are the plant parts, they store the food material. Okay. So here the transport of the soluble products of the photosynthesis is called as a translocation. So what do you mean by translocation? That is the transport of the soluble products which is produced in the photosynthesis process. So phloem translocate these products and also transport the amino acids and other substances. Not only soluble products, some amino acids and other products also transported by the phloem tissue. So here the translocation of the food and other substances takes place in the sieve tubes with the help of the companion cells. In the phloem tissue, there are different cells. So that is called as a sieve tube companion cells. So these sieve tubes that helps for the, so these are the sieve tubes. So these are the sieve element or the sieve tubes. So these sieve tubes that helps for the conduction of the food material upward, both upward and downward of the plant body. And there is a companion cells, so that also helps for the conduction of the food material from the one part to the another part of the plant body. So this is the structure of the companion cells. So the translocation means transport of the soluble food products from the one part to the another part of the plant body. So that takes place with the help of the sieve tubes. So these are the sieve tubes and with the help of the companion cells. So here already we studied about the how water conduction takes place in the xylem. So in the xylem, the transport of the water takes place with the help of some physical forces, transpiration, pull and diffusion. So these are the processes that helps for the transport of the water in the xylem to the leaves. But here the transportation of the food takes place with the help of the energy. So energy is needed for the transportation of the food material from the one part to the another part of the plant body. Here the material like sucrose is transferred into the phloem tissue using energy from ATP. So now I am explaining how transportation of the food takes place inside the phloem. So here sucrose is the product of the photosynthesis. Just imagine. So this is one of the product of the photosynthesis. This is transferred into the phloem tissue using the energy from the ATP. So this is produced inside the leaves. Sucrose is produced inside the leaves. This sucrose is transported into the phloem tissue with the help of the energy produced from the ATP. ATP, that is the energy currency that produces the energy. Adenosine triphosphate. So the full form is adenosine triphosphate. So that is produced during the cellular activities, right? Next step is this increases the osmotic pressure of the tissue, causing the water to move into it. So now just imagine this is the phloem tissue. Inside the phloem tissue, there is a sucrose. So it is transferred to the phloem tissue by using the energy, and inside the phloem now there is a osmotic pressure. So that osmotic pressure that causes the water that moves into the phloem tissue. Now the water is moving inside the phloem tissue. Why it is moving inside the phloem tissue? Because osmotic pressure is high inside the phloem. So water is moving towards the phloem tissue. So here inside the phloem, so there is a creation of the high pressure. So due to the high pressure, so high osmotic pressure, the water and the food materials, they are able to move towards the area which has the less pressure. Now the food material is moving from high pressure area to the low pressure area. So now inside the phloem there is a high pressure due to the sucrose, and when it increases the osmotic pressure, the water moves into the phloem, and this creates the high pressure inside the phloem. Then the food materials, they move from high pressure to the low pressure area. So they are moving the different parts of the plant's body. So this is how plants are transporting the food material. How the food material is transported. So the question is asked many times. This question was asked many times in your board exams, how the conduction of the food material takes place inside the phloem tissue. So this is what you have to write. The first step is material like sucrose is transferred into the phloem with the help of the ATP, and this increases the osmotic pressure of the tissue, causing the water to move into it. Water always move from its lower osmotic pressure to the higher osmotic pressure. So water is moving inside the phloem tissue because inside the phloem there is more osmotic pressure. So this pressure moves the material inside the phloem tissue which has the less pressure. So this osmotic pressure that helps the movement of the material inside the phloem. How it is moving? From high pressure area to the less pressure area. So according to the plant needs, the food material is transported. For example, sometimes the growing tips. So if it is a growing tip, so this growing tip contain need the some food material for the growth. So then it is transported to the growing tip. And for example, in the spring, sugar stored in root or stem tissue would be transported to the birds which need energy to grow, and the translocation in phloem is achieved by utilizing the energy. So this process is in phloem takes place by utilizing the energy. So that is the main difference between the xylem and the phloem. Xylem that carries the water and phloem that carries the food material. But here, how the conduction of the food takes place by utilizing the energy. But in water, so some physical forces are used to transport the water in the xylem. So this is about the how the transportation of the water and how the transportation of the food material takes place in the plant's body. So next topic, that is the excretion. Excretion, so that is the fourth life processes that we are studying. Already we studied about the nutrition, that is also one of the important process. And second one, respiration. Third one, transportation, and last one we are studying, that is the excretion. So excretion both in animals and the plants. Already you know that some waste product that are produced in our body that should be eliminated from our body. What happens if it is there in our body? If the waste material is there in our body, what happens? It may cause some diseases. When it accumulate inside our body, it is able to cause some diseases. It should be get eliminated from our body. So then only our body will be healthy. The first thing is the carbon dioxide, that is also unwanted product. How the carbon dioxide is produced, that you already studied in the last class. I'm not going to explain that now. But here, how the carbon dioxide is expelled from our body through the respiration process. And some waste products that are produced in our body by the digestion process, so that is also eliminated by the anus. So that is the digestive waste. But what about the other waste? So these are the waste materials, that is removal of the waste materials called as the excretion. But here what we are studying, excretion of the some nitrogenic waste materials. So that is produced by the metabolic activity of our body. So our body produces some urea, uric acid type of the substances, nitrogenous waste due to the metabolic activity, that also should be removed from our body. Not only carbon dioxide, not only digestive waste. So some nitrogenous waste should get eliminated from our body. That is also called as a excretion. So already you know that the removal of the carbon dioxide takes place through the respiration, and digestive system that removes the waste by the anus. But how the nitrogenous waste removed? In single cell organisms, amoeba, paramecium, you know that. So these organisms, single cell organisms, they remove the nitrogenous waste. So if it is a amoeba, so the nitrogenous waste removed by the body surface. So by the simple diffusion. What you mean by diffusion process? Already you have studied in the 9th standard. Diffusion means movement of the molecules from its higher concentration to the lower concentration. So through this diffusion process, the waste materials removed in the single cell organisms body. But what about the multicellular organisms? Multicellular organisms, they developed some complex specialized organs for that. for the removal of the nitrogenous waste, especially for the, here I am explaining in the excretion, I am explaining about the how the nitrogenous waste removal takes place from our body. So the multicellular organisms, they have the some specialized structures in their body. Okay, so here humans they have the kidneys for the removal of the nitrogenous waste. So let us study about the human excretory system, how the excretion takes place in the human body. So humans, they have developed the kidneys for the removal of the nitrogenous waste. So how the kidneys are producing the nitrogenous waste, how they are removed, and what is the structure of the kidney, that in detail we are studying in this part. Okay, so here excretory system of human beings includes the pair of kidneys, pair of ureters, and urinary bladder and urethra. So in this picture you can observe the human excretory system that contains the pair of bean-shaped structure. In this picture you can observe, so that is the kidneys, and pair of ureter, so this walls, so that carries the urine from the kidneys to the urinary bladder, pair of ureter, and this is the urinary bladder, so that collects the urine, and urethra, so that is the structure that help for the removal of the urine. So this is the structure of the kidney, where it contains the pair of kidneys, pair of ureters, urinary bladder, and urethra. So here in this picture, you can also observe this blue color veins and red color structure that are connected to the kidney. So what is this structure? So these are nothing but this blue color structure, that is the vena cava. Already you studied while studying the structure of the heart. So this vena cava that carries the deoxygenated blood. So this deoxygenated blood, so that is carried to the heart from the kidney, and this red color, so that represent the aorta, so that enters into the kidney by the structure that is called as a renal artery. So these renal arteries, they are carrying the oxygenated blood to the kidney. In the kidney, again, there is a purification takes place. So this is how aorta and vena cava connected to the kidney. So they become branch and form the renal vein and renal artery. So they are connected to the both kidneys. Okay. So here, this urine produced in the kidneys pass through the ureter into the urinary bladder, and it is released by the urethra. So that also we observed in this picture. And how urine is produced in the human body. So urine is produced in the kidney and removed by the urethra. So that already we know. But how the urine is producing? So very important for your board exam. So here inside the kidney, there is a special structures, they are known as nephrons. So before going to study the structure of the nephron, so here the purpose of making the urine is filter the waste product from the blood. So waste products means nitrogenous waste. So just as CO2 is removed from the lungs, nitrogenous waste such as urea and uric acid is removed by the kidneys from the blood. So inside the blood, some nitrogenous wastes are there. So that will be released, that will be removed in the form of urine from our body. That process takes place inside the kidney. So inside the kidney, so there are specialized structures, they are called as nephrons. So here you know the structure of the kidney that has the bean shaped structure here. So this inside the kidney, in each kidney, there are 1 million nephrons are there. What you mean by nephron? So these are the structural and functional unit of the kidney. So that helps for the formation of the urine. So let us see the structure of the nephron and how it is going to produce the urine. Very important for your board exam. So this is the structure of the nephron. The diagram is also very important, and the explanation how the nephron is working. Explain the structure and function of the nephron. That is also very important question. You can note down. Draw the neat label diagram of the nephron. Explain the structure and function of the nephron. Explain the function of the nephron and explain how urine is produced inside the nephron. So these all are the very important questions. So that is related to this part. So here, these are the nephrons. They are present inside the kidney. They have the some blood capillaries connection. So that carries the blood to the nephron. So here in the nephron, there is a bowl shaped structure. So this structure that is called as a Bowman's capsule. So here inside the Bowman's capsule, so the blood capillaries, they carry the blood to the Bowman's capsule. So concentrate here. So this first structure, so that is called as a Bowman's capsule. This capsule-like structure that is present in the nephron. So this Bowman's capsule, so that has the connection of the blood capillaries that is called as the afferent arteriole, means which is carrying the blood to the this Bowman's capsule. And this Bowman's capsule and these blood vessels together called as a glomerulus. So this capsule cup-like structure and the blood vessels are present inside this Bowman's capsule together called as a glomerulus. And the blood enters through the blood capillaries, and here the filtration of the blood takes place. So how the filtration of the blood takes place? So inside the glomerulus, there is a membrane that helps for the filtration of the blood. So if it is a glomerulus, here vessel is entering here, blood is pouring here. So in this place, there is a filtration of the blood takes place. So filtration process, you know that. So filtration of the blood takes place in the Bowman's capsule. So the filtrate, remaining filtrate. So some residues are present, so which are essential for our body. So that is again carried by the blood vessel. The essential nutrients, so they are needed for our body, that is carried by the blood vessels. But some nutrients, some water and the non-essential waste products, they are moving inside the tube-like structure. So that is a Henle's loop, and in this coiled structure, in yellow color structure is there, no? So that represents the coiled structure of the nephron. So once again, I will explain. So this is the Bowman's capsule. So inside the Bowman's capsule, so blood enters so through the afferent arteriole. So this afferent arteriole, so that carries the blood to this Bowman's capsule. Here, due to the presence of some membranes, filtration of the blood takes place. Blood will get filtered in this capsule. So the remaining residues, so residues which are needed for our body, again carried by the one more blood vessel. So it is like this. And the filtrate which is formed here, the filtrate is formed due to the filtration process. That filtrate that moves in the tube-like structure of the nephron. But in this filtrate, some essential water, nutrients, and some ions are there. So here, the filtrate that will not, the complete filtrate will not become urine. So here again, absorption of the nutrient takes place in the tubular part of the nephron. So this is yellow color part. So this yellow color part, so where the absorption of the nutrient takes place. So at the end, so here collecting duct is there. So that collecting duct, so that collects the final product, that is the urine. So that urine is this collected in the collecting duct, then it collecting duct opens into the ureter. So like this, the nephron is working. Only thing is what you have to learn, how the filtration takes place and absorption takes place in the this tubular part of the nephron, and this remaining waste product, nitrogenous waste product, enter into this collecting duct. This collecting duct opens to the ureter. So the all the nephrons, so they filtrate the blood and remove the nitrogenous waste to the ureter. So from the ureter, so it is collected in the urinary bladder, then removed from the urethra. So this is how the nephron is working as a filtration unit in the kidney. So here is also explanation. Each kidney has large numbers of these filtration units called as nephrons. Nephrons are the filtration units of the kidney. And some substances like initial filtrates such as glucose, amino acids, salts, and major amount of water are selectively reabsorbed as the urine flows along the tube. So what I explained, so in the glomerulus, so there is a filtration takes place. So the remaining, the filtrate which also contain the some glucose, amino acids and salts and major amount of the water, that is reabsorbed in the tubular part of the nephron. In the tubular part of the nephron, there is a reabsorption of these all material takes place. The amount of water reabsorbed depends on the how much excess water there is in our body and how much of what waste is there to be excreted. So here the remaining products that released into the collecting duct. Okay. So this is how the filtration takes place in the glomerulus and absorption of the reabsorption of the material, and finally it forms the urine. So in this video you can observe shortly, this is the blood vessels that is carrying the blood. Here filtration takes place. In the filtrate there is a presence of the some amino acid, sugars and water, so that is needed for our body, that should not get eliminated from our body. So this tubular part of the nephron so absorb these all nutrients which are needed, and the nitrogenous waste is excreted into the collecting duct. So this is how the formation of urine takes place in the nephron. So very important for your board exam. I hope you understood the concept. If you have any doubts, you can contact me. After the formation of the urine, that enters to the long tube that is called as a ureter, and that is connected to the urinary bladder. And the urine stored in the urinary bladder, that is when the pressure increases, so that bladder that is help to pass the urine through the urethra. So there is a muscular structure, so that help for the contraction muscles are there in the urethra, so urinary bladder, so they helps for the removal of the urine from the urinary bladder. So this is how the formation of urine takes place and elimination of the nitrogenous waste takes place in the body. So this is for your extra knowledge. When the kidney is not able to do its function, so sometimes kidney failure occurs due to some external factors or damages, or due to some other functions, the kidney is not able to do its functions properly. Means, what is the function of the kidney? Kidney is eliminating the nitrogenous waste. That is very, very important for our body. Nitrogenous waste is also dissolved in blood, so the blood will get purified inside the kidney. So not only oxygenation is the purification of the blood, so that is also a removal of the nitrogenous waste in the kidney. So when it fails, the person may die, or there is a specialized device is developed, specialized system is developed. So when the kidney failure occurs, the person that should undergo the dialysis process. So what is this dialysis process? So this dialysis process, so that contain the that helps for the removal of the nitrogenous waste outside our body, outside the patient's body. So this is how the dialysis takes place. The blood is removed from the patient's body and collected in the dialysis filter. So here there is a dialysis filter that contains the membranous structure and where the nitrogenous waste removal takes place. So this is the blood removed from the person's body and that moves to the dialyzer filter where the purification of the blood takes place. Means waste product, nitrogenous waste are removed and clean blood is collected. And this again, this pure blood is transported to the human's body. So this is how the dialysis is performed. So if the person is not having the kidneys are not working properly in any persons, they undergo the dialysis process. The last topic of this chapter, that is excretion in plants. So already we studied transportation in both human beings and the plants. So here also excretion both human beings and the plants. So plants, they remove the excess of water through the transpiration. So removal of the water, that is called as a transpiration. And you know how the carbon dioxide and oxygen exchange takes place. Carbon dioxide is also removed during the respiration. So that is through the how? Stomata. Stomata is helping for the this excretion. Then again, some waste products are produced in plant's body also. There is no specialized organs or organ system for the removal of the waste in the plant's body. But how it is going to remove it? So plants, they produce the waste products and stored in the cellular vacuoles inside the plant cell. So there is a cellular vacuole. So if it is a plant cell, just I'm drawing it. So inside the vacuole is present in the plant cell. So these vacuoles, they are storing the waste products, and these waste products that may be removed in the form of leaves that fall off. So in some plants continuously the leaves fall off. So that removes the some waste products, and some dead cells and dead tissues, they are also removing the waste products. And one more thing is the waste products are stored in the form of resins and gums. So these resins and gums also removing the waste products, and they excrete the waste substances into the soil around them. So these all are the methods that are used by the plants to remove the waste products. There is also one question. So what is that question? How the excretion takes place in plant's body? How, what are the different methods of the excretion in plants? So that is, they excrete the waste products in the form of resins and gums, and some waste products removed by the soil, so they are contact in the soil, so this is released into the soil, and some are stored in the vacuoles, and some leaves, so they fall off, they contain the waste products. So this is how the plants excrete. They develop different method for the excretion. There is no different system for the plants. Okay, so this is how excretion takes place in the plants. So very important chapter. So this is the resins and gums. So these resins and gums also, they are the waste products in plants. So students, we have covered the very important chapter. So that is the life processes. It is very important. All four life processes and related questions are very important. So just recall what we studied in this chapter. So in this chapter, we studied about the first nutrition. So nutrition in human beings, in amoeba, and how it takes place in the autotrophs and heterotrophic type of the nutrition. Then next part is the human nutrition, how the digestion process takes place, how the absorption and different types of the enzymes and their functions, that we studied. In the next part, respiration, types of the respiration. What are the types of the respiration? They are the aerobic and anaerobic respiration and their representation, so that we studied. After that, how the respiration takes place in the human beings, respiratory system in human beings. Then we move to the transportation. So transportation mainly blood, about blood and the heart we studied. Then transportation in the plants, that is by the xylem and phloem. Then excretion, that is about the excretory system in the human body. So this is what we studied in the life processes chapter, one of the very important chapter. So students, try to answer this question. First question is, so these questions what I am giving here, so these are the repeated question asked in the various board exams, so different year board exams. Describe the structure and functioning of the nephrons. Very important. Structure you have to explain and function you have to explain. What are the methods used by the plants to get rid of the excretory products? So how they remove their excretory products means, so just now I explained that. How is the amount of urine produced regulated? So urine produced, so that is reabsorbed in the tubules, right? So in that method, the urine production is regulated. Fourth question is, how water and minerals transported in plants, and how food transport takes place in plants. Sorry for this mistake. How food transportation takes place in plants. So for this question, you have to write the answer. So thank you, students.